talk about NotebookLM Plus. Now, I'm a Google Workspace person, so since I have that account, I've got the NotebookLM Plus. It's a paid version, and I love it. I use it all the time. It helps me take a lot of different sources, put them in here, get less hallucinations, and actually pull real data off of these sources and help me combine everything. I'm overwhelmed with the stuff that I need to consume every week to try and stay on top of everything, and NotebookLM has been my go-to to help me manage all of that data efficiently. And it does a really good job of helping me give back data in a format that is much more consumable for a lot of people. In particular, the podcasts that I create from it. Let's do a little walk around of what's available on here. Now, I'm not going to cover everything because it does a lot. But here's your main screen. When you come up to this screen, you'll see I have several notebooks that I've created in here. When you first create a new notebook, this is going to pop up. You can upload your sources here. You see there's different types of sources and links that you could upload. And it's going to be able to look at all of those and pull out information for you. But this is the main screen. If you get in here, all your sources will be listed over here on the left. In the center, the chat window, this is where whichever source you have selected, it's going to show the summary in here. But you could upload sources here, brings back that same window. On the right side, you have the studio. This is where you can do a conversation. Basically, you could create a podcast here. You can add your notes, create study guides, briefing docs, and timelines. It's super powerful, the things that you can do once you get some data, some sources uploaded here. And you have a lot of options what you can do with those. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and open one of my notebooks that I already have created. This is something that I do every week. We have a Discord office hours mastermind. Sometimes it lasts for 7 or 8 hours. And we record that, and then the transcript from that recording I'll bring over here and have NotebookLM help me manage the information in that transcript. I'm not going to read 7 hours worth of transcript, but it will break it down for me for the main points. I used to just do an outline in ChatGPT, but coming over here and doing it in Notebook Plus gives me much more clear breakdown and a better management of each of those sections and discussion points that we had in the group. Now, I've taken away the full transcript in here because I shared this notebook, which is a great feature that has been added, and you can do that here. And we don't ever release the full video or full transcript from the membership meeting because there are some private conversations that go on in that mastermind that are meant just for the people that are in that room. But all of these sources were created from that full transcript PDF. On the left here, you see the different sources that I have. In the recap section here, you'll see it says 8 sources. That's these that talk about this information. It's just a short little recap. And if I want to, I can save that to a note. I can add a note, create a new note myself here. And then I could convert that note to a source. And that's what all of these are. These are notes that I created. I'm going to click Studio again and go back to that screen. But these are some different things. You can do an audio overview where it's going to create a little conversation of the information that's in these. And this is one of the things that I do every week. I bring that transcript in here from our meeting. I pull out the main points. I'll create notes from those main points. It helps me summarize the information. The things I feel are the most beneficial for people who did not attend the meeting, I'm going to put in this as a recap, and I'm going to create that audio overview as a podcast. And then I put that podcast up for those non-attendees to get the main points of our discussion and take action on some of those items. Now, it only took a few seconds, and you see there's a almost 24-minute audio. And this audio is between two AI voices, and they do a pretty good job of covering the information that is in this recap, that's in these sources, in the way that I've guided the conversation. And so you can customize these as well. And you can also create a mind map, which is really cool, and it's interactive. I'll click on that. Oh, I don't want to generate. Now it's generating one, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I already have one generated on here that I can show you. Down here, if I open it, this is what the mind map looks like. So these are the main topics that we talked about during our office hours. And then each one of these can break down into several different subtopics that we talked about within that main topic. And it does that for each of these points. So it's pretty cool. And then it breaks down even further on some of these points where we got into even deeper conversation. So you could go through and look at the mind map. One of the things that I'm starting to do with this is take some of these topics that we discussed, and you could take every one of these and make a different source from it. Another cool thing is if I just want more information on this topic that we discussed, you see that we went pretty deep into this and broke down even further into several sub-conversations. But let's say I wanted to have more information just on these discussions that we had. This is a pretty deep topic. So I might want to create a source that focuses just on this part of the discussion. I could click on that, and now the chat will change and give me that discussion on the topic that I chose from the mind map, break out different points and timestamps of where those things were covered. And then if I want to click on one of those, it'll come over here and create a source guide for me and break it down even further. We have several different ways in here to break down the information and put into a consumable format that works for you. Now, each of these sources here I created from these different topics in my notes. And I created the notes by doing this and saving the note. See, it duplicated the note here that I had. I already had one for building AI chatbot businesses, because that section, there was a lot of information in there that I wanted in the audio file that I'm going to create. And so these are the notes that I created from that mind map and the different topics that I wanted to make sure the audio podcast talked about. And so each of these notes that I created, I made a source out of it. So I have my mind map. I clicked on main points in that mind map, created notes from those different sections, and those notes are over here. Now these notes are view only unless I convert them to a source. And that's what I did. You see all of these are sources that were created from my notes. I go back to Studio. I can also click up here and convert all of my notes to a source if I want to. And if I did that, you see all notes becomes a source. But let's remove those. The other thing we can do over here, I can create a study guide. It's going to create a new note, and it's based on these 8 sources that I have over here because they're all checked. Now, the study guide, and the study guide gives me a quiz, essay questions, terms, a lot of terms we talked about. And then again, once I create that, I could convert that to a source if I wanted to. But I'm going to delete that. Trying to keep this cleaned up. If I want to do a briefing doc, I could click on that. going to give me the brief, main topics we talked about. There were 6 main topics that it pulled out. Important ideas and facts. And in the breakdown here, it'll give you timestamps of where these points were talked about. Does a really good job giving you different options to format this data in a way that you want to consume it. It's also pretty cool. You can get a timeline that it'll create. There's a chronological order to the things that are covered in this data, or if you have historical documents and you want timelines, it's pretty cool. Now, since this isn't really a chronological set of sources, it's not like historical data with timelines, it's interesting to see how it broke it down. So here's a detailed timeline and cast of characters based on the provided sources. So it gives you a timeline of the events or the topics that we discussed and who talked about them. And so that's a little interesting. When it gets down here to the cast of characters, I find it quite comical the way it describes all of us and what we talked about. But it's very interesting, the different aspects of this tool and what you can use those for. The FAQs, and this is very interesting, gives you a few questions that you could ask about this data, and then the answers that were pulled from the data to answer those questions. And if you convert this to a source, you could use that in the audio discussion that I'm going to show you now. Now, you remember in the chat, when we first were in the chat, we did an audio overview, and it gave us like 24 minutes of audio format, which I use as a podcast. So I took all these sources, put it in here, and then 2 AI voices are going to talk about all of the information that is summarized in these sources.
Okay, like actually meeting people.
Yeah, think local business meetings, industry gatherings, community.
Just about anybody that wants to learn AI and start playing around with some AI tools would get a benefit from coming in here and playing around with NotebookLM. So I recommend NotebookLM to everybody. Come in here and find something in this tool that will help you create or manage or research and organize all of that data and manipulate it in a way that works for you. Students, obvious, right? So summarizing all of that learning information that you have, lecture notes, textbooks, researchers and writers, just imagine putting these big, huge research papers in here. And like I had this transcript, it was 8 hours, and it broke it down into 24 minutes of an audio podcast and covered many of the points. You saw the mind map. We had a variety of paths that we went down. But the podcast did a really good job, the audio did a really good job of covering the main points in a way that non-attendees are going to get a lot of value out of that. And if you're a content creator, it'll blow your mind the number of content pieces you can create in here from 1 or 2 sources. And if you're a lifelong learner like me, this is going to be your best friend for summarizing and organizing all of that information that you consume and try to keep organized in your brain. So are you ready to give NotebookLM a try? I think it's a fantastic tool for anybody who wants to work smarter with information. If you're ready to give it a try, I've got the link to it down below in the description. Let me know in the comments below if you've heard of NotebookLM, if you're using NotebookLM, if you have more questions or want to see more videos on how I use NotebookLM. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if this was helpful, please hit the like button and share and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.